Hey everybody, it's Mr. Mini Painter here, and today we will be painting Hedwig from the Harry Potter games Wizarding Duels by Night Models. This is not a very difficult character to paint because there aren't very many colors, but I love painting him and the environment makes up for a very nice model. So first thing I did is prime it in a gray tone. You can use black and highlight it in a gray tone if you want, some zenithal highlighting. I just use a plain color. And I started off with a base color of dry bark for the tree. Next I used Thundia Brown for the base, which is maybe a bit of an unconventional color for sand, but I like the yellowish tone it has, and I wanted to have a bright base because it's a very monotone model with a lot of whites and some tree bark. So I decided to go for a bit brighter base than usual. But of course you can use any type of brown you like for these bases. For the rocks, I used Mechanicus Standard Grey, a nice dark base color for the rocks, which we'll be highlighting later on. Now for Hedwig, I used Grey Seer as a base color because it's a bit off-white, grayish. She's not really white, is she? So this is a nice base color which we will be shading and highlighting later on. As you can see, it's a very delicate model and it moves while painting, so don't apply too much pressure or maybe hold it in some way. I didn't really think this through. Next, I used a dry brush and administratum grade to highlight the rocks. You can go fairly rough around rocks because they can be shaped and colored like anything you want. So don't be shy, just brush any way you like. After you let it dry for a while, then you shade it with Nuln Oil to create those nice dark recesses in the rocks. And for the base itself, I shaded it with Agrax Earth shade, and I also used the same shade on the tree, the bark of the tree. For Hedwig, the wings, the body, I completely covered the model with Apothecary White, which is a very nice contrast paint, a bit bluish grey, so to add a hint of color to the body, and it creates these really nice shades between the wings and all the folds in the body. So that gives a nice illusion of depth. Next I dry brushed it with a fairly light dry brush with pure white scar. Make sure to wipe off most of the paint So you will only touch the very tips of the wings and the edges of the model. Now to highlight the tree, I used a dry brush and Gothel brown. Make sure you go sideways, so you only touch the edges of the bark of the tree. You should get a nice differentiation in tints of brown. After this, I further highlighted the tree with some Ushabti bone, which is a very, very bright yellowish color, and I liked it to create some extra, very small detail highlights on this tree. Make sure to use a very, 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 very dry brush. You don't want any dabs of paint or blobs of paint at this point. So wipe off that brush and gently touch the model. Now the base, I gave a first highlight of Gothel brown, also with a fairly large dry brush. Just use an old brush, any brush will do, and make some circular movements. And finally I gave it a very, very light dry brush layer of Zandri dust. Now, there are many different models of Hedwig. Some are mainly white, some have some spots or colored feathers. I decided to go with the Hedwig version of the slightly speckled feathers, so some black feathers in there. And I just randomly picked out some of the feathers and gave them a layer of Corvus black, which isn't dark black, but more of a grayish look. And you just pick out some parts of the wing and just touch it with a small dot of black. Try and stick to one feather. I did the same at the bottom here. Just pick out some random wings and next is beak, and the beak I gave a pure Abaddon black color. Now you can choose to edge highlight the very tip of it with some Administratum gray or maybe even a lighter version of gray. The eyes I gave an Ariel yellow color because it's a very bright color. The eyes are so tiny on this model, you really want them to appear, to be able to see them. So use a bright yellow color. And the difficult part, of course, is the pupil. I'm going to use Abaddon black to try and put in a nice round pupil in this one. And I'm also using Abaddon black on the, is it legs? Claws? I don't know. I'm using Abaddon black on the claws of the bird as well, or its feet. And again, you can choose to highlight them with a brighter color of gray. And here is the final results of our very quick paint job. Hedwig from the Harry Potter game, Wizarding Duels. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.